Jake Mitchell stood at his kitchen window, watching the storm roll across the Montana sky. Dark clouds moved fast over his farm. Lightning lit up the fields where his cattle stood under the old oak trees. Thunder made the windows shake in their frames. He was a quiet man of 42. His face showed the lines that came from years of working outside. His hands were rough from fixing fences and caring for animals. 3 years ago, his wife Emma had died from cancer. Since then, Jake lived alone on the farm where they had planned to grow old together. The farm was small but well kept. Jake had 20 cattle, some chickens, and a 3-legged dog named Rusty. The dog had lost his leg in a trap years ago, but Jake nursed him back to health. Now Rusty followed Jake everywhere, happy despite his missing leg. Jake made himself a cup of coffee and sat at the old wooden table. The storm was getting worse. Rain hit the windows hard. The wind howled around the house like a wild animal. This was the kind of storm that could knock down power lines and tear roofs off barns. He had already checked on the animals twice. The cattle were safe in the shelter he built near the pond. The chickens were locked in their coop. Rusty lay by the fire, his ears flat against his head. Dogs always knew when bad weather was coming. At 9 o'clock, the rain stopped suddenly. Jake looked out the window. The clouds were still there, but everything was quiet, too quiet. Even the wind had stopped. It felt like the world was holding its breath. Then he saw it. A bright light streaked across the sky. It was not lightning. This light was blue and white, and it moved in a straight line from east to west. It was too big to be a plane and too bright to be a shooting star. Jake watched it fly over his farm, leaving a trail of sparks behind it. The light suddenly changed direction. It wobbled like a bird with a broken wing. Smoke came from it in thick black clouds. Jake realized it was falling. It was going to crash somewhere on his land. He grabbed his coat and flashlight. Rusty jumped up, ready to follow. The crash came with a sound like thunder, but longer and deeper. The ground shook under Jake's feet. Through his window, he could see a strange blue glow coming from his back pasture. Jake ran outside with Rusty beside him. The air smelled wrong, like burnt metal and something else he could not name. The blue light was getting dimmer, but he could still see where it came from. Whatever had fallen was in the field behind his barn. He climbed over the fence and walked toward the light. His flashlight showed him a path of burned grass and torn earth. Small fires still burned where hot pieces had fallen. At the end of the path was a hole in the ground about 20 feet wide. Jake reached the edge and looked down. At the bottom of the crater was something that made him stop and stare. It looked like a small ship, but not like any airplane he had ever seen. It was silver and smooth, with no wings or wheels. Parts of it were cracked and smoking. Next to the ship lay a person. But as Jake climbed down into the crater, he saw this was not a normal person. The figure was about the size of a woman, but her skin was pale silver like moonlight. Her hair was white as snow. She wore clothes made of material that looked like metal but moved like cloth. She was not moving. Blood that looked purple in the flashlight beam came from cuts on her arms and head. Something that might have been a breathing mask was broken beside her face. Jake had seen many hurt animals in his life. He knew what death looked like, and this being was not dead. Her chest moved up and down slowly. She was alive but badly hurt. He did not think about how strange she looked. He did not wonder where she came from or why she had fallen from the sky. All he saw was someone who needed help. Jake had never been able to walk away from pain, whether it belonged to a cow, a dog, or this silver woman from the stars. Jake took off his coat and wrapped it around her carefully. She was lighter than he expected, like her bones were hollow like a bird's. Her skin felt cold, but not like death. It felt like cool metal in winter. He carried her out of the crater and across the field to his barn. Rusty followed, whimpering softly. The dog seemed to understand that something important was happening. In the barn, Jake made a bed of clean hay in an empty stall. He laid the strange woman down gently and covered her with horse blankets. The barn was warm and dry. It smelled of hay and animals and safety. Jake looked at her in the light from his lantern. Her face was beautiful but not human. Her eyes were closed, but he could see they were larger than normal eyes. Her ears came to small points. When she breathed, he could see that her teeth were different too. She was clearly not from Earth, but she was hurt and alone, and that was all that mattered to Jake. He went to get his first aid kit and a thermos of hot soup. If she lived through the night, she would need food and water when she woke up. Outside, the storm had passed. Stars appeared between the breaking clouds. Jake wondered if one of those stars was her home. 3 days passed before the silver woman opened her eyes. Jake had stayed close to the barn during those days. He checked on her every few hours, bringing fresh water and warm soup. Her breathing had gotten stronger, and the purple blood had stopped flowing from her cuts. But she had not moved or made any sound. On the third morning, Jake was sitting on a wooden box near her bed of hay. He was cleaning his hands after feeding the cattle when he heard a soft sound. It was like music, but not quite. Like someone humming a song from far away. He looked up and saw that her eyes were open. They were large and silver, like mirrors that caught the light. She was looking right at him, and Jake could see fear in those strange eyes. She tried to sit up fast, but pain made her fall back into the hay. The musical sound came again, louder this time. Jake realized she was trying to talk, but her voice was nothing like human speech. It rose and fell like birdsong. Jake stayed very still. He had learned long ago that frightened animals needed space and time. You moved slow and kept your voice soft. You let them see that you were not dangerous. "It's okay," he said quietly. "You're safe here. I'm not going to hurt you." The woman stared at him. Her head turned slightly, like she was listening to his words but did not understand them. She made the musical sound again, but softer now. It sounded like a question. Jake pointed to himself. "Jake," he said slowly. "My name is Jake." She watched his mouth when he spoke. Then she pointed to herself and made a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. It was beautiful, but Jake could not repeat it. "I can't say that," he said with a small smile. "Your skin reminds me of moonlight." "Can I call you Luna?" She did not understand the words, but something in his voice seemed to calm her. Jake had always been good with scared animals. His voice carried no threat, only kindness. Luna tried to sit up again, moving slower this time. Jake stayed on his box, not moving closer. She looked around the barn, taking in the hay, the horse stalls, and the tools hanging on the walls. Everything was strange to her, but she could see it was clean and cared for. Jake picked up a bowl of soup he had brought earlier. It was chicken soup that Emma used to make when he was sick. He held it where Luna could see it and made eating motions with a spoon. Luna watched him carefully. She made a sound that might have been a question. Jake nodded and held out the bowl, but he did not move closer. He set it on the floor halfway between them and went back to his box. Luna looked at the bowl for a long time. Then she reached out slowly and pulled it toward her. The smell seemed familiar, like food from her own world. She tasted it carefully with a finger that was longer than human fingers. The soup was warm and good. Luna had not eaten in days. She drank it slowly, watching Jake the whole time. He just sat quietly, sometimes talking to her in his soft voice about simple things. "The storm is over," he told her. "The sun came out yesterday. Your ship is still in the field, but I covered it with a tarp to hide it from anyone who might fly over." Luna did not understand his words, but she heard something in his voice that surprised her. There was no excitement about finding something from another world. No fear of what she might be. No desire to use her or hurt her. Just simple care like he might show to any hurt creature. This confused Luna. Her people had studied humans from far away. The report said humans were dangerous and primitive. They fought each other over small things. They destroyed their own world for profit. They could not be trusted. But this human had found her broken and bleeding, and his first thought had been to help her. He had not tried to take her apart to see how she worked. He had not called others to come and stare at her. He had simply given her warmth, food, and safety. Over the next few hours, Jake brought her more soup and fresh water. He showed her a blanket and mimed pulling it over herself if she got cold. He pointed to himself and then to the barn door, letting her know he was leaving but would come back. Luna tried to stand when he left, but her legs were still weak. Her people were stronger than humans, but she had been badly hurt in the crash. Her ship's life support had failed. She had breathed human air for 3 days, and it was thinner than what her lungs needed. But she was alive. This strange, quiet human had saved her life without asking for anything in return. When Jake came back an hour later, he brought things she had not seen before. He showed her a bucket and mimed washing. He brought clean cloths and pointed to her cuts. Luna understood. He wanted to help her clean her wounds. In her world, medical care was done by machines in sterile rooms. But here in this warm barn that smelled of animals and hay, a being from another species wanted to tend her wounds with his own hands. Luna let him help her. Jake's hands were gentle but sure. He had clearly done this many times before. He cleaned her cuts with warm water and put soft bandages over them. He never touched her more than needed. and he talked to her the whole time in that calm voice. "There's an old cow named Bessie who gets hurt a lot," he told her while he worked. "She's always trying to get through fences that are too small for her. I've patched her up more times than I can count." Luna began to copy some of his words. "Jake?" she said, though her musical voice made it sound different. "Bessie." Jake smiled when he heard his name in her strange voice. "That's right. I'm Jake. You're learning fast." Luna pointed to the soup bowl. "Good," she said, remembering the word from somewhere. "Yes, good soup," Jake agreed.
"Are you still hungry?"
"I can bring more." Luna did not understand all his words, but she heard the question in his voice. She nodded, copying the movement she had seen him make. Jake brought more soup and sat with her while she ate. Sometimes he would point to things and say their names slowly. "Hey, barn, water." Luna would repeat the words in her musical voice, and Jake would nod encouragement. As the sun set outside, Jake brought thick blankets and made sure Luna was warm. He showed her a bell he had hung within her reach. If she needed help during the night, she could ring it and he would come. Before he left, Jake said something Luna was beginning to understand. "Good night, Luna. Sleep safe." Luna watched him go. She had been taught that humans were primitive and dangerous, but this human had shown her something her advanced people had never learned. He had shown her that kindness needed no shared language, no technology, and no reward. It just needed a heart willing to see pain and try to heal it. Over the next 2 weeks, Luna grew stronger. Her cuts healed quickly, and she could walk around the barn without getting tired. Jake visited her every morning and evening, bringing food and checking on her health. During the long days alone, Luna watched Jake work through the barn windows. She saw him feed his cattle, fix broken fences, and care for his animals with gentle hands. Every action showed the same kindness he had given her. Luna was especially interested in how Jake treated Rusty, the three-legged dog. Many species would have put such an animal out of its misery, but Jake had saved Rusty and made him a part of his family. The dog followed Jake everywhere, happy and loved despite being broken. Jake began teaching Luna more English words. He would point to objects and say their names slowly. Luna was a fast learner. Her people were good with languages, and soon she could say simple sentences. "Jake good," she would say when he brought her soup. "Luna strong," he would answer when he saw her walking better. One morning, Jake found Luna looking at a small device she had hidden in her clothes. It was silver like her skin and made soft beeping sounds. Jake had seen it before but had not asked about it. He never demanded answers from her. Luna saw him looking and decided to try to explain. She pointed to the device and then to the sky. "Home," she said in her musical voice. Jake nodded slowly. "You're trying to call home." Luna made frustrated sounds. She wanted to tell him so much, but the words were hard. She pointed to herself and then made a gesture like flying. "You can fly?" Jake asked. Luna shook her head and pointed to her crashed ship in the field. "Fly, broken," Jake understood. Her ship was damaged and she could not leave. "Are your people looking for you?" Luna nodded. She held up her device and made it beep. "Call home far away." "Long time." Jake saw that she was worried. "They'll find you," he said. "You just have to wait." That afternoon, Jake brought Luna outside for the first time. She was curious about everything. The sun felt different on her skin than the light from her own star. The air smelled of grass and earth and growing things. Jake showed her around his farm. Luna watched him milk the cows and gather eggs from the chickens. She saw how he knew each animal by name and spoke to them like friends. "This is Bessie," Jake said, patting a large brown cow. "She's the one I told you about. Always getting into trouble." Luna reached out carefully to touch Bessie. The cow looked at her with big, gentle eyes and did not seem afraid. Animals could sense things that people missed. If Bessie trusted Luna, that meant something to Jake. In the garden behind his house, Jake showed Luna the vegetables he grew. Tomatoes, beans, and corn grew in neat rows. Luna was amazed. Her people got their food from machines and factories. They had forgotten how to make things grow from soil and sunlight. "You make food from earth?" Luna asked. "Plants grow here," Jake explained. "I help them, but the earth does the real work." Luna knelt and touched the soil with her long fingers. It was dark and rich and full of life. On her world, the ground was covered with metal and concrete. They had traded their connection to the earth for technology. That evening, Jake made dinner in his kitchen and invited Luna to eat with him. She had been living on soup and bread in the barn, The idea of sharing a meal in his home felt important to both of them. Jake's kitchen was simple but warm. Pictures of him and a human woman covered the walls. Luna pointed to one of the pictures. "Emma," Jake said quietly. "My wife. She died 3 years ago." Luna heard the sadness in his voice. "Sorry," she said, learning a new word. Jake smiled sadly. "She would have liked you." Emma always said kindness spoke every language. Luna did not understand all his words, but she felt their meaning. Jake had loved someone and lost her. Now he lived alone with his animals and his memories. But he had still found room in his heart to help a stranger from the stars. They ate together in comfortable quiet. Jake had made beef stew with vegetables from his garden. Luna found that human food agreed with her body. It was simpler than the processed nutrients her people ate, but it tasted like it had been made with care. After dinner, Jake showed Luna how to work his radio. She was fascinated by the simple technology. Her people used quantum communications that could reach across galaxies instantly, but there was something beautiful about Jake's old radio that caught voices from far away on invisible waves. "My grandfather built this farm," Jake told her as they listened to music from a distant station. "His grandfather started it before that. 4 generations of my family have lived here." Luna tried to understand. Her people moved from planet to planet, always looking for new resources and new knowledge. They never stayed anywhere long enough to call it home. But Jake's family had put down roots in this soil and grown something lasting. "You stay here always?" Luna asked. "It's home," Jake said simply. "When you find something worth keeping, you take care of it." Luna thought about that. Her people believed that staying in one place made you weak and primitive, but looking at Jake's farm, she saw something different. She saw strength in choosing to tend one small piece of the universe with love and patience. Over the following days, Luna helped Jake with simple tasks around the farm. She was still learning to understand human ways, but she could carry water and help move hay. Jake never asked her to work. She wanted to help because he had helped her. Luna also began to tell Jake about her people. She used simple words and gestures to explain that she came from the stars, that her people traveled between worlds, and that they had been watching Earth from far away. "Watch humans," Luna said, pointing to the sky and then to Jake. "Watching us? Why?" Jake asked. Luna struggled with the words. "Humans, dangerous, fight much, hurt world." Jake was quiet for a long time. "Do you think I'm dangerous, Luna?" Luna looked at this man who had saved her life, shared his food, and asked nothing in return. She thought of how he cared for a 3-legged dog and spoke kindly to his cows. She thought of the love she had heard in his voice when he talked about his dead wife. "No," Luna said firmly. "Jake good, Jake safe. Maybe your people need to look closer," Jake said. "Maybe they're watching from too far away to see what humans really are." That night, Luna sent another message to her rescue ship with her communication device. But for the first time, she was not eager for them to arrive quickly. She was learning things here that her people needed to know. She was seeing a side of humanity that their distant observations had missed. Jake had shown her that real strength was not in weapons or technology. It was in choosing to be gentle when you could be harsh, to give when you could take, and to heal when it would be easier to ignore the pain of others. Luna was beginning to understand that her people had been wrong about humans, but she was also starting to worry about what would happen when her rescue came. On a clear morning 3 weeks after Luna's crash, her communication device began beeping faster than usual. Luna looked at the signals and felt her stomach tighten with worry. Her rescue ship had finally arrived. She found Jake in the barn, treating a cut on one of his horse's legs. He looked up when he heard her hurried footsteps. "My people come," Luna said, her voice tight with concern. "Soon," Jake nodded calmly. He had known this day would arrive. "Are you happy to see them again?" Luna did not answer right away. A month ago, she would have said yes without thinking. But now the idea of leaving this quiet farm filled her with sadness she did not expect. "Yes," she said finally. "But scared too." "Scared of what?" Luna struggled to find the right words. "My people have rules. About humans, about contact." Jake set down his tools and gave Luna his full attention. He had learned to read the worry in her silver eyes. "What kind of rules?" he asked. Luna took a deep breath. "Humans primitive, dangerous, no contact allowed. If contact happens..." She made a gesture across her throat that Jake understood. "They would kill me?" "Memory gone," Luna said. "You forget Luna, forget ship. Forget all." Jake felt a chill run through him, not because he was afraid for himself, but because he understood what this meant for Luna. She would have to watch them erase the kindness she had experienced. She would have to let them destroy the friendship they had built. "What do you want to do?" Jake asked. Before Luna could answer, a shadow passed over the barn. Both of them looked up to see a ship hovering silently above the farm. It was larger than Luna's crashed scout ship and made no sound at all. It looked like a piece of the night sky had broken off and come to Earth. Luna's device beeped urgently. She looked at it and her face went pale. "They land now," she whispered. "Jake, go in house, hide." But Jake did not move. "I won't hide from people who want to hurt my friend." Luna's eyes went wide. In all her years of training and travel, no one had ever called her friend. Her people valued knowledge and efficiency. They did not form emotional bonds like humans did. The ship landed softly in Jake's pasture, right next to Luna's crashed scout ship. A door opened with a soft hiss and 5 figures in silver uniforms walked out. They moved with military precision toward the barn. Luna stood and walked outside to meet them. Jake followed despite her worried glances. Rusty came too, sensing that something important was happening. The leader of the group was tall and stern-looking. Captain Zeth had the same silver skin as Luna, but his eyes were cold and distant. He spoke to Luna in their musical language, and Jake could hear anger in the flowing sounds. Luna answered in the same language, but her voice was defensive. Jake did not understand the words, but he could see they were arguing. Captain Zeth looked at Jake with disgust, as if he were an insect that had crawled out from under a rock. He said something sharp to Luna and pointed at Jake. "No," Luna said firmly in English, switching languages so Jake could understand. "He saved my life. He gave help freely. He is good." Captain Zeth answered in English too, his voice cold and mechanical. "You have been compromised by primitive emotional responses. This human will be processed according to standard protocols." 2 soldiers stepped forward with devices that hummed with energy. Jake recognized the threat even though he had never seen such weapons before. Luna moved to stand between Jake and the soldiers. "I invoke emergency protection protocols," she said loudly. "As senior scout on this mission, I claim authority over this contact situation." Captain Zeth's eyes narrowed. "You would defy direct orders for a primitive human?" "Look at him," Luna said, her voice growing stronger. "Really look. You have watched humans from space and seen only their wars and mistakes, but I have lived with one. I have seen what they really are." She turned to gesture at Jake's farm. "This human found me broken and dying. He did not try to use me or study me or gain from my knowledge. He gave me warmth, food, and safety without asking for anything. He works every day to care for creatures weaker than himself. He heals what is broken and protects what is vulnerable." Captain Zeth looked around the farm with cold eyes. "Primitive agriculture, inefficient emotional attachments to lower life forms. This proves nothing." "It proves everything," Luna said. "We measure civilization by technology and conquest. But true civilization is measured by how beings treat those who cannot defend themselves. This human shows mercy to injured animals, grows food from the earth with his own hands, and opened his home to a stranger from the stars." Jake listened to Luna defend him and felt something break open in his chest. For 3 years since Emma's death, he had lived quietly, thinking his small life did not matter much. But Luna saw value in the simple kindness he tried to show every day. "You have been infected with human emotion," Captain Zeth said with disgust. "Report to the ship for immediate debriefing and mental correction." "No," Luna said firmly. The word hung in the air like thunder. Jake had never heard Luna speak with such authority before. "This human has shown me something our people have forgotten," Luna continued. "We have become so focused on expanding across the galaxy that we have lost touch with what makes life worth living. This human knows how to be happy with simple things. He knows how to love without conditions. He knows how to give without taking." Captain Zeth raised his weapon. "Stand aside, Scout Luna. That is a direct order." Luna did not move. She spread her arms wide, shielding Jake with her own body. "If you want to harm him, you will have to go through me," she said, "and I will report every detail of this encounter to the Federation Council. They will learn that we found a human who embodies the very values we claim to represent." Jake stepped up beside Luna. "You don't have to do this for me." Luna looked at him with eyes that had learned to show love. "Yes, I do. You taught me that protecting someone who cannot protect themselves is what good people do. You are good people, Jake. I want to be good people too. Captain Zeth stared at them both. Around him, his soldiers waited for orders. The standoff stretched long and tense under the Montana sky. Finally, Captain Zeth lowered his weapon. The Federation Council will hear of this, he said coldly. You have violated every protocol we have. Good, Luna said. Maybe it is time our protocols changed. Jake felt Rusty press against his leg. The three-legged dog was not afraid of the alien soldiers. He trusted Jake's judgment, and Jake trusted Luna's. Sometimes that was enough to change the world. The next few days brought more ships to Jake's farm than the Quiet Valley had ever seen. Word of Luna's defiance had traveled fast through the Federation. Ships arrived carrying diplomats, scientists, and officials who wanted to see the human who had caused such trouble. Jake handled the attention the same way he handled everything else, quietly and calmly. He offered coffee to visitors and answered their questions honestly. He showed them his farm and introduced them to his animals. He treated alien dignitaries the same way he treated the mail carrier or the feed store owner. Luna stayed close to Jake during these meetings. She had to translate between the officials and Jake, but she also served as his protector. Some of the visitors looked at Jake like he was a dangerous animal. Others studied him like he was a puzzle to solve. But slowly, something began to change in how they saw him. It started with Dr. Kala, a scientist who studied how different species lived together. She was watching Jake feed his chickens when one of the birds hurt its wing trying to fly. Jake gently caught the chicken and examined the injury with careful hands. It's not broken, Jake told Dr. Kila as he wrapped the wing with soft cloth. Just bruised. She'll be fine in a few days. Dr. Kila watched Jake release the chicken back to the flock. The bird did not try to run away. It stayed near Jake's feet, trusting him completely. On my world, Dr. Kila said slowly, we would have put that creature out of its misery. We do not waste resources on damaged animals. She's not damaged, Jake said, scratching the chicken's head gently. She's just hurt. There's a difference. Dr. Kila thought about that for a long time. Later, she wrote in her report that humans seemed to understand something about the value of individual life that more advanced species had forgotten. Ambassador Vale was harder to convince. He had come to Jake's farm ready to find evidence that humans were dangerous and primitive. But after 3 days of watching Jake work, he found something else instead. You live alone here, the ambassador said one evening as they sat on Jake's porch. Are you not afraid of raiders or thieves? Jake looked confused. Why would I be afraid? There's nothing here worth stealing except what I'm willing to share. But surely you must defend your territory from other humans who want to take it. Jake shook his head. My nearest neighbor is 5 miles away. Old Pete drops by sometimes to help with harvest. His wife Mary brings me soup when I'm sick. We help each other. Ambassador Vale had studied thousands of species across the galaxy. Most of them fought constant wars over resources and territory. But here was a human who shared what he had and trusted his neighbors to do the same. Is this normal for humans? The ambassador asked. Around here it is, Jake said. People look out for each other. The biggest test came when Fleet Commander Nash arrived with a ship full of soldiers. He was convinced that humans were a threat that needed to be controlled before they developed space travel. Commander Nash strutted around Jake's farm looking for evidence of hidden weapons or military training. Instead, he found Jake teaching a group of visiting aliens how to plant tomatoes. These seeds will grow anywhere you have soil and sunlight, Jake was explaining to Dr. Kila and 2 other scientists. You don't need machines or chemicals. Just water, patience, and a little care. Commander Nash watched in amazement as Jake handed out small packets of seeds to each visitor. You are giving away the means to produce your own food? He asked. Sure, Jake said. Food should grow wherever people need it. But if we can grow our own food, we will not need to trade with you. You lose power. Jake looked at the commander like he had said something very strange. I don't want power over you. I want you to have what you need to be healthy and happy. That night, Commander Nash sent a message to the Federation High Council. It said that humans might be the most dangerous species they had ever encountered, not because they were violent, but because their ideas about sharing and cooperation could completely change how the galaxy worked. Luna watched all these interactions with growing pride. Each visitor who came to judge Jake ended up learning something from him instead. But she knew the real test would come when the High Council made their final decision about Earth. The decision came 2 weeks later in the form of Counselor Prima, the highest-ranking official in the Federation. She arrived in a ship that could have carried 1,000 soldiers, but she came alone except for 2 assistants. Counselor Prima was ancient even by Federation standards. She had seen the rise and fall of many civilizations. Her silver hair was white with age, and her eyes held the wisdom of centuries. She spent her first day on the farm in silence, just watching. She saw Jake milk his cows and repair a broken fence. She watched him talk gently to Rusty and share his lunch with a stray cat that had wandered up to the porch. That evening, Counselor Prima asked Jake to walk with her through his fields. Luna translated as they talked. "Scout Luna says you saved her life without knowing what she was," the counselor said. "She was hurt," Jake replied simply. "That's all I needed to know. But she could have been dangerous. She could have killed you once she recovered." Jake looked at Luna, who was walking beside them. "Luna wouldn't hurt anyone. You can see it in how she treats the animals. Good people are good people no matter where they come from." Counselor Prima stopped walking. In all her years of managing galactic politics, no one had ever described moral character in such simple terms. "Your species fights wars and destroys your environment," she said. "How do you explain that?" Jake was quiet for a long moment. "People do bad things when they're scared or desperate. But most people, given a choice between kindness and cruelty, will choose kindness. Sometimes they just need someone to show them how." The next morning, Counselor Prima called together all the Federation officials who had visited the farm. Jake and Luna sat with them in the barn where this had all started. "I have made my decision," the counselor announced. "Scout Luna was correct to protect this human. Her actions have revealed something important about this species that our distant observations missed." She looked around the simple barn, with its smell of hay and animals and honest work. "We have spent so many centuries conquering and expanding that we have forgotten what we were trying to build. This human reminded us that true civilization is not about how much power you have, but about how you use it. It is not about taking what you want, but about giving what others need." Counselor Prima stood and walked over to Jake. "Jake Mitchell, the Federation Council hereby appoints you as Earth's first cultural ambassador. Scout Luna will remain here as our official liaison, to continue learning from your people and teaching us what we have forgotten." Jake looked surprised. "I don't know anything about being an ambassador." "You know everything that matters," the counselor said. "You know how to see a stranger in need and offer help. You know how to tend what is broken until it heals. You know how to build something good and share it with others." After the other officials left, Jake and Luna stood together in the field where her ship had crashed. Workers had repaired the scout ship, but Luna was not leaving. "Are you sure about this?" Jake asked. "Staying here means giving up your old life." Luna smiled, something she had learned to do from watching Jake. "My old life was about traveling to new places but never really seeing them. Here I can put down roots and grow something lasting." Jake nodded and looked out over his fields. "Emma always said this farm had room for more than just me. I think she would have liked you being here." That evening, Jake showed Luna how to work his radio. They listened to music from distant stations while planning where to build Luna's cabin. Rusty lay at their feet, content to have his pack grow larger. In the months that followed, other aliens began visiting the farm. Some came officially as part of cultural exchange programs. Others came quietly, looking for the peace and purpose they had seen in Jake's simple life. Jake treated them all the same way he had treated Luna, with kindness, patience, and the offer of warm soup on cold nights. Luna helped translate and taught the visitors how humans grew food from soil and made families from friendship. Word spread across the galaxy about the human farmer who had changed Federation policy with nothing but hay, soup, and a fearless heart. Some species thought the Federation had gone soft, but others began to wonder if there might be wisdom in the human way of doing things. Jake never thought of himself as someone important. He just kept doing what he had always done, caring for his animals, tending his land, and helping anyone who needed it. But now he did it with Luna beside him, and their quiet example sent ripples across the stars. Sometimes the most powerful force in the universe is not technology, or weapons, or conquest. Sometimes it is simply one person choosing to be kind when they could have turned away. Jake had fallen from no stars, but his compassion had reached them anyway.